And further afield, the G7 summit came to an end in Hiroshima, Japan, Sunday, with members drawn from the International Political Forum taking a tough stance against Russia, China, and North Korea. Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida, who currently holds the presidency of the world's wealthiest nation, asked the three countries to adhere to the United Nations treaties and join the international community in securing peace across the globe.
The Hiroshima Plan of Action, released in one of the cities that were hit in 1945 by an atomic bomb, bringing to an end the Second World War, hosted the G7 summit this week. The member states undertook to scale up sanctions against Russia and those supporting its war efforts in Ukraine.
And that the threat of use of nuclear weapons, let alone its use by Russia, are inadmissible.
Ukraine, whose leader Vladimir Zelensky, who graced the summit, will in turn continue to receive support from the G7 members. While addressing an international press briefing to mark the end of the summit, Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida described Kremlin's attack on Ukraine as a threat to the whole world.
For the G7 to have invited President Zelensky to Japan to show G7's unwavering solidarity with Ukraine.
As the curtains come down on the G7 summit in Hiroshima, member states have reiterated additional sanctions on Moscow to force it to end the attacks on Ukraine. Besides the conflict in Eastern Europe, the leaders committed to strengthening the nuclear disarmament and non-proliferation treaty towards achieving a world without nuclear weapons.
North Korea is launching ballistic missiles, which is unprecedented in both frequency and manner, and that this is a serious concern. And the G7 strongly condemned the repeated launches of ballistic missiles.
In the plan of action, the G7 further called on the biggest polluters to adhere to measures aimed at realizing net zero carbon development. Judith Akolo, Hiroshima, Japan.